Over-specialisation can be a problem in the workplace. People on production lines doing just one job can become bored and demoralised. Companies which make or do just one thing are vulnerable to collapses in markets or the arrival of vigorous competition. At the same time, though, being a jack of all trades has never been easier. Technology means we can all be photographers, filmmakers, and music makers without having to spend years mastering the tools of the trade. And the huge interest over the last 10 years or so in DIY pursuits, evidenced by the presence of huge mega hardware stores and television commercials and television programs, which urge us to build our own pergolas, tile our own bathroom, and install our own kitchen, have meant that many of us have derived much pride and pleasure while doing all these things, while also saving the money we may have spent on an expert, on a specialist in the field. But of course, there are the disaster stories. Such pursuits can engender. Most of them funny, a few costly, and only a few dangerous. When I worked in the north of England as a student minister, there was one member of my congregation whose job it was to fix up DIY disasters. He was a building inspector for the Merseyside Council. And he said the biggest part of his job was advising on and managing projects to rescue failed DIY projects in both public and private housing in the Merseyside district. At that time, in the late 1990s, there was an explosion of interest in doing things yourself in Britain. People were very enthusiastic and gauged every idea they saw. They used every colour on offer. Their ambition was huge, their skill base small. And the inevitable often happened, and he came in to fix it up. He laughed a lot when he used to speak about his work. He said that on some occasions he wanted to say to his clients, "Look, if your kid needed his appendix out, you wouldn't look it up on the internet, would you, and have a go yourself? You'd call in an expert, a consultant, a specialist in the field. Perhaps you should do the same for your house. Get a specialist, get an expert." But other times, he said, he just wanted to applaud their audacity, their vision, their boldness, and their courage and willingness to have a go and develop new skills. After all, he said, it kept him in work. If in some respects we are all not unlike Jack, in other ways quite right to be, is there any truth left in that saying, Jack of all trades and master of none? Julian Baggini says that there is, and this truth is to be found in the word master. To really excel at something, you need focus and dedication. More people can be decent photographers in the world of digital cameras, but to be an excellent one, you still have to work at it. So the real question we should ask ourselves is, do we want to try to be masters of one thing and perhaps fail? Or would we prefer to be merely competent in many? All that Jack shows us is that this is indeed a choice. How we choose is an open-ended question. But unless you are an all-rounder genius like Leonardo da Vinci, choose you must. I find I come full circle at this point. I started off considering and railing against the simplicity and incompleteness of the quotes on the back of my bus tickets when I was a teenager. I went from there to considering and railing against the simplicity and incompleteness of the motivational quotes written on the whiteboards of our tea room during my nursing days. And now I walk past a beautician's salon every day on my way to pick up my children from school. I've walked past that salon every day for 4 years, taking the kids to childcare, then kindergarten, and now school. Out the front of that shop every day for those last 4 years has been a little blackboard with a motivational quote written on it. In the 4 years, I have never seen the same quote twice. Some inspire, some motivate, some annoy, and some make me angry. For all of those quotes I've read on that blackboard as I've flown past every day in the last 4 years, I've thought of an exception to that rule. And for all of them, the bad ones and the good ones, I've thought that on their own they are incomplete. I recognise that there is undoubtedly something in all of them, but there definitely isn't nothing that is not in them. I have large collections of proverbs and quotes. This is because all ministers do, and I have been a lifelong collector. I love having access to all those words, But there is a danger of confusing having access to a store of wisdom and actually being wise yourself. Too often, like the printer of the bus tickets, the motivational charge nurses, and the writer of the beautician's blackboard, I worry when the wise words we ourselves parrot without necessarily really thinking about them can see wisdom mutating into folly when it is repeated without thought or reflection. This sermon is for you to think about, to reflect upon, argue and converse with. It exists simply to fuel the thinking of those who think for themselves. And that is all of you. Amen.